Nick speaking, and welcome to this video. Right, another learning curve video for you. Back on with the Tyranids. Now I did hang off making these videos previously because, well, we had a load of rumours that Tyranids were coming out in January. It hasn't happened, so I thought it's about time I continued with the series. So today we are going to look at the psychic powers for Tyranids, the powers of the Hive Mind. So I'm going to run through each of the power, just sharing my experience with them. Now, I think the thing to bear in mind with the psychic powers is that obviously it's all dependent upon your army. You know, which units you have in your army. Some powers are going to be obviously more useful than others. What I suggest you do is keep an eye out on the comments below, because I can see what's going to happen. I'm going to obviously run through some powers, which is how I use them for my army, and other people are obviously going to be taking different units, and they're going to have a different connotation as such for that particular power. So as usual, this series is just about learning together. Okay, so let's have a look at these. So first of all, we have the Primaris power, Dominion. Now this is a warp charge 1, and at first glance, just read this out to you. So it basically is a blessing that targets the Psyker, and whilst the power is in effect, the Psyker adds 6 inches to its synapse range. This is the type of power, really, to be fair, which on first inspection you probably almost dismiss it. You know, you're going to have a lot of synapse embedded within your army anyway, and the chances are you're going to be probably trying to get most of the other psychic powers off before this one. But what I would say is, when it comes to doing your psychic powers, you have to have a look at the board to see if this power is going to be useful to you. It's always just checking it out. You know, just saving 1 dice even just to try and attempt to get an extended synapse range is actually pretty useful. Now, there are some very specific uses for this. Now, as you have the ability to obviously extend your synapse range, it does mean that your fast-moving creatures, in particular, let's say your fly runts, which are going to be obviously flying around the board, having an extra 6 inches range on those is actually really useful. It helps keep your sort of your front runners as such under control. So it's always bearing in mind that. And there's a few other additional uses for these. So, for example, you have your Brood Lord within the Gene Stealers. Now, if you give him Dominion, which gives him a 6-inch synapse range, now that is actually really, really good, because it will make effectively him and his unit fearless. So if you're just about to charge your Gene Stealers in, you can basically, just give them Dominion, makes them have a 6-inch synapse range. Anything then is going to be fearless, which is really, really great to have on Gene Stealers. And another example of how I found this really, really useful as well was when I was playing Ace, where I had my Gargoyles out attacking his Riptide, and then I had most of my forces hiding in buildings and stuff, and where the Gargoyles had extended their range, they were out of synapse, and what I was doing was using my Zone Thropes, extending my synapse range and maintaining those Gargoyles in synapse range, and really just holding up his Riptides. So there's definitely a use for it. It's one of those, I think, those powers which can easily be dismissed, but it's always, before you do generate all your powers, it's always worth just checking the board out and just trying to predict whether or not an extra 6-inch range on your synapse creature is useful or not. Okay, so that's the Primaris power. Next, power number 1, which is Catalyst. Now this is also a warp charge 1, and it has a range of 12 inches. Now I'd say this is my most favourite power, I think, out of all of them. So effectively you cast the power, it's a blessing, and the unit that cast the power and another unit within 12 inches, they both receive Feel No Pain special rule. which is absolutely fantastic. If you have 2 Flyrants, which I always play in my list generally, and you get Catalyst, that means you can have Feel No Pain effectively on 4 units. Wow, that is awesome. Now, I'm going to talk about Flyrants quite a lot in this video because they're obviously going to be my main HQs that I use, which I'm sure they probably are of yours as well. But if you get Catalysts up, then when you're deploying, then it's always worth making sure that your Flyrants are within 12 inches of some other units, because you know, turn 1, Feel No Pain on 4 units is just amazing. And it really helps the Flyrants in the air. If any saves, yeah, you know, if they've got to take any saves, and the Feel No Pain as well as the Jink, and then the 3+ save really helps make them survivable with those just 4 wounds that they've got. So Feel No Pain, awesome. Get those on your Trigons, on your Morlocks if you can. Really great power. I really love them. Bearing in mind, if you put these on, if you put Feel No Pain on your Gants, your Toughness 3 stuff, and you get hit with Strength 6 or more weapons, you won't get your Feel No Pain, of course. So that's just something to bear in mind. Instant death, of course, takes away Feel No Pain. Okay, the next one, power number 2, the Horror. Again, Warp Charge 1. This is a 24-inch power. So it targets a single enemy unit within 24 inches, and then the target immediately takes a pinning test. And not only that, it's with a -2 modifier to the leadership. Now this again is a great power. It's not so useful against stuff that is fearless, obviously, because it's totally useless against those units. But anything that isn't fearless, a leadership check on -2 is pretty scary, especially if you happen to get more than 1 horror on the table. Now I've had it where I've had 3 horrors on the table, and even Space Marines with their leadership 9 or 10, but minus that 2 modifier, that can be pretty scary stuff. 3 of those coming at you. So the Horror, another great power. Okay, next up we have Onslaught. Now I have to say, Onslaught is my most, not useless, but Onslaught is the power that I don't use that often. Now I think it's down to the army lists and units that I take. But let's have a quick look at the power. So it's a Warp Charge 1, it's 24 inches, has a very nice range. It's a blessing, and basically once you've targeted a unit within 24 inches, that unit is able to run and then it's able to shoot. Now I can see some fantastic uses for the Onslaught. Like I said, it's just that I haven't really made use of it enough, probably because of the units that I take. But I would imagine if you have your Exocrine on the table, which has just got that 24-inch gun, having Onslaught on him means you can obviously move, you can run, and you can shoot. It can be really useful for getting them within range of their, you know, with their guns. And it'd be pretty useful for Tervigons, for example. You know, when they need to get into position to make space to generate more gaunts, if you know, they've got the option to run and shoot with their, I think they've got, what's it called, Stinger Salvo, I think it's called. So there definitely is a use for this particular power, and I know it is a favourite amongst a lot of people, and I think it would be one of my favourites if I played the Exocrine model, but I don't own that model yet. I will own it one day, and when I do, Onslaught's going to be useful. But overall, probably one of the least used powers that I get. Okay, so next one. Now I can't actually pronounce this. It's paroxysm. I always call it paroism because the actual power itself reminds me of paralysing someone. So it's a Warp Charge 1 again, it's 24 inches, and it's a Malediction. It targets an enemy unit within 24 inches, and if you manage to hit that target or affect that target, then they have -D3 to their weapon skill and their ballistic skill. which is very nice indeed, especially if you are just about to charge into assault units, making them weapon skill minus, well, up to minus D3, but at least guaranteed -1 weapon skill. It's going to make it obviously harder for them to hit you and easier for you to hit them, and it's a really, really useful power. Like I said, because it's sort of minusing their stats, it is like almost paralysing them, which is why I just have Paroism on my mind. So yeah, and again, it's a really great power to have to affect your enemy's army. So really, really useful. So thumbs up definitely for that power. Okay, next we are coming to Psychic Scream. This is a very short range power, so it's 6 inches, again just warp charge 1, and it's a Nova power. So within 6 inches, for each target unit within 6 inches, you roll 2d6 plus 2, and then you subtract that from enemy's leadership, and the unit suffers a number of wounds equal to the result, with no armour or cover saves allowed. Now that is pretty good. It's obviously very, very similar to what we had with Doom and Melantai. It's obviously very, very short range, so it's got almost pretty limited use. It could be quite good on something maybe that if you've got it in a drop pod. Obviously, if you've got Zone Thropes and they get that power, could be quite useful to drop them in with that power. Zone Thropes, obviously with their 3+ invulnerable save, can get up close and personal fairly well. And could be pretty useful as well if you take the Neon Thropes with the Zone Thropes. He already has his power to do leadership checks, and then if you can combine that with the Psychic Scream as well, that can be very nasty indeed. So I would say, again, this is a power, to be fair, I haven't rolled much. I don't tend to get this power very often, but when I do, it is good, but I think you've got to plan for it. It's not one of those things you can say, right, well, I'll look at the table, have a look at my cards and see what happens. 6 inch range, you've got to actually plan to go in and to use this power. And if you have it on your Flyrants, like I said, they've obviously got great movement, so it's pretty useful thing to have. Okay, so that's that one. Right, lastly, we have the good old faithful Warp Blast. Now this is the Warp Charge 2 power. It has a dual range 18 inches and 24. So it's a burst at 24 inches, which is the Strength 5 AP3 Assault 1 Blast, or you can choose to use the Lance, which is 18 inches, Strength 10 AP2 Assault 1 Lance. It's a Witchfire power, of course. Very, very useful power. Your Zone Thropes obviously automatically come with this, along with 1 extra power that they generate. And don't forget, of course, they also get the Primaris power. But Warp Blast can be really, really useful if you get them on your Flyrants as well, because obviously they do move around very quickly, so they can get within 18 inches. And because it's a psychic power, they can still shoot their Twin Link Devourers, as well as shooting their Strength 10 AP2 Lance weapon. So it's really, really useful maybe for popping tanks. So rather than using your Devourers to glance tanks to death or pop tanks from rear armour, you can potentially pop a tank with this Strength 10 AP2 weapon, and then you can shoot Devourers at the stuff that gets out. So it's really useful, and obviously a 24 inch slightly longer range Strength 5 AP3 blast. Again, that's pretty decent. Denying any saves from Space Marines is always decent. So a very nice power indeed. Obviously Warp Charge 2, you have to bear that in mind. The rule of thumb effectively is you need to roll twice as many dice as the Warp Charge that you need. So if you need a Warp Charge 2 power, you need to be rolling 4 dice. On average, I mean that's your statistical average. If it's a power that you really want to get out, then obviously you can put more dice in, but watch out for perils of the warp. So that is all the powers. On the whole, I would say they're really good powers. They're definitely suited to the Tyranid army, and I think they're great. And I think having some good psychic supports for your Tyranids is almost essential. It's a massive part of the Tyranid army and how it works. And also it's a fantastic fun as well. All those powers there are all really good fun powers to use as well. So I don't really have a bad thing to say about the Tyranid powers from what we have. I mean, I'm ignoring everything that's happened in the past or what we've had in the past, but from a starting block of what we have to deal with, I would say they're really good. So I'm happy with them. Hopefully this video has been useful to you. Like I said, let's have all those feedbacks and comments in the comments box below for everyone to see. We all have our own opinions, we all have different uses for stuff, so I'd be interested to read those as well. Okay, that's it from me. Thanks for watching.